Welcome back to the channel, guys. Tyrocco here, and today we're going to be talking about, once again, the Sand Devils Necropolis. So this is the area of the game where I'm thinking most players are struggling. I know some players have just completely given up on it, which I can understand because a lot of the content is around the higher stages. Some of these lower stages have some teams built around them. Stage 7, Stage 11, Stage 15. The stages that are very efficient for farming, they will begin to have more and more teams built around them, but majority of the high-level teams are going to be focused around stage 24 and 25 because that's where you can speed tune and you can expect to be farming those for a really long time. These lower stages, it's not much sense in speed tuning them because when you move to the next stage, the speeds are going to be different. This isn't a big of a deal in things like Dragon, Ice Golem, Spider, but in the Sand Devils, it's very, very important because your team's just going to get destroyed. If your Revival and Death champion is say 150 speed on stage 1, you're going to go right before the boss, I believe, but on stage 2, you're going to be 5 speeds slower. So you're going to have to bump up your speed 5 times every single time you move up difficulty to make it work from stage 1 to 25. Now, maybe eventually there's going to be a team that comes out that can do stage 1 to 25 full auto, which will be amazing. If so, I definitely want to hear about it. I definitely want to know about it because I think that's the biggest issue. And it's something I'm working towards, helping as many players as I can as soon as possible, is getting through all the stages up until whatever stage it is they want to farm. But today, I want to share with you guys my opinion on the top 10 Sand Devils champions. And if you have any champion that you have in mind that you think should be on this top 10 list that isn't, definitely let me know down below. And don't worry, we will be mentioning the champion who's in the thumbnail of this video, which I'd say is actually pretty impressive. But the first champion, everybody should know this, is Godseeker and Neri. So guys, I'm gonna go ahead and be honest right off the bat. If you have Godseeker, you can beat the Sand Devil. Now you do need Regeneration plus Immortal to do the high stages. She needs to stay alive. But if you have her, you win. Like, that's all there is to it. You can do stages 1 through 24, not full auto. It does have to be manual, but as long as you can make sure that she survives the big hit, that she reses, and that she has her revive ability and her passive off cooldown at the time she needs them, she's going to be good to go. So basically how she works is you put her in the lead spot. Whenever the boss does its big hit, she places Revival and Death, comes back to life, reses the champion in the second spot. Very common with Ninja. She reses, say, Ninja. Ninja uses his A2 ability, does a lot of damage, and then she heals up with his A2 ability, getting rid of the destroyed max HP. So Godseeker is an absolutely amazing champion, by far the best champion for Sand Devils, because you pair her with a damage dealer. It really doesn't matter what, she's going to win. Your team is going to clear it. It could be 2 minutes or it could be 20 minutes. It depends on what damage dealer you're using. But if you have Godseeker, invest in her. She is absolutely incredible. And if you get lucky and you only land 2 books here and you fully book everything else, then you can run stage 24 with Food Champions and Ninja. So keep that in mind. I do have a video on that, but it is something interesting. So the next champion, kind of to be expected, it's going to be Ninja. Now, I'm not going to keep doing the most popular champions necessarily. So a lot of these champions you guys probably will know. But Ninja is an absolutely amazing champion because he does that A2 ability that places the HP burn, activates the HP burn, which just so happens to be the biggest damage dealing thing to the Sand Devil. And also, he's a legendary champion, so you can put Brimstone on him to do even more damage to the Sand Devil. So Ninja is going to be part of the fastest teams, places the HP burn, activates the HP burn, can use Brimstone as well, making him a terrific option for the Sand Devil. Okay, if you have him, use him. He can solo stages 7, 11, 15, and then 24. He's an absolute monster for as well. Let's get back to the index because the next champion is going to be a brand new champion who's actually one of the most controversial shard pull events recently. That is Elva Autumnborn. So Elva brings an amazing ability on, well, kind of 2 amazing abilities, okay? Actually 3. So she brings her A2, which is a block debuff plus increased speed, but it also cleanses all the debuffs. So it cleanses that decreased speed, cleanses the decreased accuracy, which doesn't really matter that much, mostly just the decreased speed, but she cleanses that, places block debuffs as well as increased speed. She also brings that res, which is very, very good, especially if your team's not super survivable. Maybe you're running a Godseeker Ninja plus Elva team for a little bit more safety, but alongside that, she also brings a heals each ally by 10% of their max HP at the start of their turn. Very similar to what Seal of the Drakes has, but Syl of the Drakes only heals on her turn, versus Elva, she heals whenever the ally takes a turn, which is absolutely incredible, so beneficial. So Elva Autumnborn is definitely one of the top champions for the Sand Devils. Also, she brings a very good speed aura, so she makes teams very easy to build. And when the Sand Devil first came out, there was a lot of teams focused around her being built. She is such a good champion, such a good healer, such a good res champion, an amazing A2 ability. Overall, a very good champion for the Sand Devil. And now let's move into the next champion, who is also pretty insane. Not a controversial shard event. She was in a shard event. That is Rio. So Rio was in a guaranteed Void shard event. I think she was like the first Void champion guaranteed in a shard event. Let's go ahead and say she's an amazing champion because of her A2 ability primarily, but she brings some more very beneficial things to the Sand Devil. So her A2 places a ton of debuffs, which helps you do more and take less damage from the Sand Devil, which is incredible by itself. But she places some very good debuffs at that. Decreased defense, HP burn, weaken, such amazing debuffs. But she also brings a heal, which you'll find a similar theme to the later champion we're going to talk about. But she brings a very good heal. Removes all debuffs from all allies. Isn't that big of a deal. I mean, it is for the cleansing. The block debuffs is very nice, but the main thing her heal is going to be very good for is getting rid of that missing max HP. So it also heals all allies by 35% of their max HP, and by a further 5% for each debuff removed. So a 6-turn books down to a 3-turn duration, or 3-turn cooldown, on a heal that's 35% of their max HP, and places block debuffs, and cleanses everything. It is such a good ability. So places tons of debuffs, cleanses, block debuffs, and a huge heal. Rio's a champion who, if you have her, she should be in your Sand Devils team, especially if you don't have a champion like Godseeker to basically just duo any stage of the Sand Devil without much of an issue. The next champion is going to be, once again, another legendary champion. That is the Demon Spawn, Duchess. Duchess, absolutely incredible. One of the biggest, I guess, calls to fame for her, for the Sand Devil, is the fact that her passive ability reduces the AoE damage taken from bosses by 15%. You build your Duchess with, well, this passive ability, of course, is already there, but you build her with Stalwart, with Defiant, really high max HP, then when the boss uses that big, hard-hitting AoE ability, she can survive that. She is, I think, the only champion who can reliably and reasonably survive the biggest hit from the Sand Devil on stage 25. She's also strong affinity on stage 25, meaning the boss cannot crit her. So it's going to be super easy for Duchess to do that very consistently. She is part of the fastest stage 25 teams. So Duchess, if you have her, you've probably already built her. So now let's move into some of the champions that you guys probably have. We talked about Godseeker, Ninja, Elva, Rio, and Duchess, which are all probably champions you may not have. The next group I want to talk about is Revive on Death champions in general. So this is kind of cheating on the top 10 list, but let's talk about a few different Revive on Death champions. So first up is going to be the Dark Elf champion, Crimson Helm. Has a Revive on Death on her A3 ability. 4-turn cooldown, places a 2-turn Revive on Death. Turn off this A2 ability. You do not want this multi-hit going off whenever the boss is asleep, because it's just going to basically wake the boss up instantly. Revive on Death, absolutely amazing. Another champion, Skytouch Shaman. Skytouch Shaman has a Revive on Death, also brings a very nice heal, as well as block debuffs. It's kind of difficult to make her work in a lot of teams. Some teams she's great, but other teams it's difficult because she fears herself, as well as reduces her HP, and unless you bring another healer, it's hard to keep her alive. So she works in some teams, but you do have to be very mindful about the setup. But if you're just worried about Revive on Death, she's an amazing champion for that. Next option is going to be Mother Cybele, a champion who was in a fusion a while back. Her A2 ability, 3-turn cooldown, Revive on Death, plus increased defense. Just turn off this A3. The only thing I've found with her to be a little bit weird is that her A1 ability boosts her turn meter. So if she's in a specific speed tune, it could make things get a little bit difficult to speed tune, but she is an amazing champion with an amazing Revive on Death. So definitely a champion who is good on manual and possibly very good in some upcoming full auto teams as well. The next champion who I can think of right now is going to be Lightsworn. So Lightsworn has a Revive on Death on his A3 ability, 5-turn cooldown once again, increased defense, so similar to Mother Cybele, but a longer cooldown, just a great overall champion. Unfortunately, his A1 though does attack 3 times, so you're going to have a higher chance of waking the boss up. Definitely unfortunate there, but I guess you could have him open with that A3 ability, place Revive on Death, and then next go into the A2 and then use the A1 hopefully when the boss is already woken up. So Revival and Death champions, if you don't have a Revival and Death champion already built, you probably need to build one. The Sand Devil, it's going to be Revival and Death, Godseeker, kind of the two main strategies. More and more coming out. Definitely going to be some ideas with like a team res champion, put in Stone Skin, going the fastest, but that's going to be difficult because after that first turn, it's still going to be very difficult to actually survive that huge hit from the boss because the boss is going to do that every so often consistently. So the next champion I want to talk about is the champion on the thumbnail. Unfortunately, I don't actually have this champion maxed out. I don't even have her on my account, and that is Woad Painted. So why Woad Painted? The most probably disliked champion in the game for a long time. She was terrible. She was known to be terrible. She got a good buff, and that buff allowed her A2 to be probably the best heal in the game, potentially. So removes all debuffs from this champion and one random debuff from all allies. Then heals this champion by 100% of their max HP and heals all allies by equal to 50% of the surplus heal. Afterwards, places a 30% reflect damage buff on all allies for 2 turns, then grants this champion an extra turn. So she's healing herself for 100%. So say she has 50% HP after Revival and Death. She heals herself for 100%, then she heals everybody else for 50%, which could be massive. I mean, if you build her with a lot of HP, she's going to have a huge, huge heal, meaning that all that destroyed max HP from the boss is just going to be gone. Here, let me show you guys a video real quick from Bronco, Raid Shadow Legends. I'm actually covering up his YouTube channel name, but it's right there. I'll leave it linked down below, but check this out. His breakdown right here with Woad Painted on the far right. It's probably my PC making this look so blurry, but Woad Painted over here on the far right. We have Crimson Helm over on the far left. But here we go. We got the Revival and Death about to come in. Everybody's revived. You can kind of see the destroyed max HP right there. Helicath comes in with the block damage. We have Crimson Helm doing her thing. And then Woad Painted over here, healing herself up for a huge amount, and then healing everybody else for 23,000 damage. Wow. Now, nobody has any destroyed HP any longer. So now, it's just going to be consistent heals throughout. He places some good shields throughout with Tatura as well as Helicath. So, Woad Painted used to be useless, but now actually has a ton of value. Now, she's not the only person who can do that, of course, but having a huge heal like that against the Sand Devil, especially right after that Revival and Death, makes for an amazing champion because once that destroyed max HP starts to add up throughout the duration of the fight, you start having a pretty big issue when your champion is missing 40% of their HP. You're probably going to die, right? So Woad Painted, definitely a very solid champion and definitely a champion to consider building. The next champion, we're actually going to skip this one for right now. I'm going to come back to him in just a minute, but there's 2 champions I want to talk about now. Both of these champions have been featured in some videos of mine. The first one is going to be maybe in this faction. Let's see. Hellhound. Places a sleep. Places a 1-turn duration sleep, but he has to crit. He's a common champion, so he can't wear banners, unfortunately. So he can't be ascended either. So it makes it difficult to gear him. But if you can build him, you can get the stats required, build the crit rate, build the speed, get the accuracy, then he's going to be a very good champion because he can place the sleep every single time he attacks, meaning that the Sand Devil is going to be locked out for majority of the match. Now, he doesn't lend very well to 100% consistent teams because there's obviously the 3% chance to be resisted from placing the sleep. So there is the risk there, but this is going to make for a very consistent team. I've done a team before with him in it, and he just locks the Sand Devil down the entire time. Sand Devil doesn't really get another chance to use that big, hard-hitting A3 ability, and it's really just single targets throughout because I was using Geomancer alongside him, turning off the Sand Devil's A2 ability basically with Geomancer, and it made for an excellent, excellent team. So Hellhound is an awesome champion, and the champion who I think is a little bit better than Hellhound, at least for consistency, kind of, not so much on auto, but manual for sure, that is Muckstalker. So Muckstalker is a very good champion. He has a pros and cons, okay? So his A2 ability places a sleep for 2 turns, which is amazing. The good part about this is the sleep is for 2 turns. So if you sleep the boss when he's about to take a turn, it's not a big deal. You got 1 full turn after that of the boss being asleep. The bad thing is this is on a 2-turn duration, and if he misses this, he doesn't get another chance to do it the next turn. So if he misses the sleep, the boss is going to have that much more of a chance to actually get back around, take a turn, and this is where I've noticed the most fails in the runs is when Muckstalker does get resisted, does miss the sleep, whatever it may be, and then he has to wait to actually get back around and do it again. So a little bit risky, but in manual, you can time this out very well. Sometimes he uses it when the boss is already asleep. You can't double sleep, of course, so if you're doing it on manual, you can easily just say, hey, let's sleep now, let's wait to sleep when he's awake, so on and so forth. It makes it super easy. But even on auto, he still works. He's still consistent with the teams, but you're not going to see 100% consistency, and it'll probably be slightly less consistent than Hellhound as well. But still, both very, very good sleep champions, and in my opinion, as far as the sleep goes for an extended duration battle, they're both quite a bit better than Siphi. So Siphi is another champion who does a sleep, but it requires the target's turn meter to be above 50%. Good thing about this is that it can't be resisted. The bad part about this is the target's turn meter has to be above 50%. So right here, equal to or above 50%. And then if it's below 50%, then it heals all allies. So if it's below, the heal is nice. If it's above 50%, then the sleep could get placed. You could have no champions going after that, and then it's just going to be unfortunate. But if it sleeps at the right times and some speed teams, some fast teams, it can work very well. So Siphi's good for very, very niche teams, but in general, in an extended duration fight, she's going to be kind of difficult to actually get to work, at least from what I've noticed. But still, a solid sleep option if you do have her. The next champion I want to talk about is Geomancer. It's weird. This dude right here seems to be finding a way into every single top 10 tier list whatsoever. Since he's been released, he is like a legendary, like a SS tier legendary. I mean, he's just incredible, but he's an epic champion. So Geomancer brings an HP burn plus weaken, fully depletes the enemy's turn meter, which is very, very good as well. Depletes his own HP on the Sand Devil's boss because he's depleting the Sand Devil's turn meter, meaning that the Sand Devil's A2 ability is basically turned off. Sand Devil only uses the A1 as well as the A3, meaning that it's pretty easy to survive and plan things out. He also reduces the damage taken from bosses, but more importantly, he reflects some of the damage the boss deals back to the boss, which is incredible. So Geomancer is so good, especially for lending itself to speed runs. Just an amazing champion all around. If you have Geomancer, it shouldn't take the Sand Devils to convince you to actually build him. You should have built him with Hydra. You should have built him for really anything. He's an amazing champion. So good. Even Iron Twins. So Iron Twins, Geomancer. Sand Devils, Geomancer. Hydra, Geomancer. It's so crazy how good this champion is. If you haven't pulled him yet, dang, I feel sorry for you. The next champions I'm going to talk about. So this basically ended up being like a top 20 list. But the next group of champions is going to be Hellcath, Maneater, and Roshkard. So the boss ignores Unkillable from his A3 ability, but he does not ignore Unkillable or block damage. He also ignores both of those from that A3 ability, but he does not ignore either one of them from his A2 or his A1 ability. So if you have champions like Hellcath, champions like Maneater, champions like Roshkard, then you can time it out to where you have the block damage up when the boss does that A2 ability, and then some of the A1 abilities as well, primarily that A2 ability, because that's the ability that's really going to be risky as far as some of your champions actually dying. But if you can have, specifically, Hellcath or Roshkard having their block damage abilities up whenever the boss does that A2 ability, then you're going to prevent yourself from actually dying. Maneater isn't going to prevent you from taking damage, but he's going to prevent you from being killed, hence the Unkillable. So Roshkard and Hellcath are going to be better than Maneater, but Maneater is still going to be good to prevent some of your more squishy champions from actually dying from those big hits, but you are going to need some healer, like Woad Painted maybe, to actually pick yourself up from that damage that the boss does from that A2 ability if you just have Unkillable placed on your champion. So guys, that's going to be the top 20 list, but titled top 10 list for the Sand Devils Necropolis. Let me know if I missed anybody. Let me know if there's anybody kind of hidden out there right now that you're kind of looking into and so on. Definitely interested in finding out. I want to get some more videos out for the earlier stages. Just trying to find something that makes sense because I have teams. I have teams that can do all these stages. It's just some of the teams use champions. I'm like, this isn't going to help anybody. If I'm trying to do a more achievable team, but I'm using several champions from this top 10 list, it may not make a ton of sense for majority of you all. So if you have one of these champions from this list or a couple of these champions, it's probably going to be a very smart decision during CVC to go ahead and start building some of those champions up, especially if you're interested in doing the Sand Devil. Honestly, where I'm at in the game, Sand Devil has quite a bit of value, I've gotten quite a bit of good stuff from it. Increased my Arbiter speed quite a bit. I've been getting some of my Hydra champions built with Sand Devil upgrades. We have, let's see, my Husk got a nice little speed boost. I mean, he got a, let's see, +5 speed on a pair of boots that had 45 speed. So I got extra 5 speed, which is something I couldn't actually switch because his build was very specific as it is, so I couldn't move anything. So just getting these extra stats throughout were actually very, very nice. We have my Geomancer as well. So he has attack percentage, not a huge deal. I need to actually farm a lot more, but I've picked up some nice upgrades throughout. A ton of useless upgrades, but I've picked up a few nice upgrades that can definitely help me with getting into a very high, consistent, full auto 1-key Nightmare Hydra team with these upgrades. So I'm definitely excited for the Sand Devil. I'm glad to be able to farm it, and I do think it has quite a bit of value for a lot of players. If you're able to farm it, even on the stage 7, I think it's worth it. Stage 11, stage 15, it's not a bad thing to invest in. Obviously, if your early game gear is going to be very, very valuable, you need good gear to actually upgrade. But I do think the Sand Devil has more value than what some players are making it out to be. Some people are just completely discounting it, saying it's useless, it's a waste of time. And for some areas of the game, it may be. But I'd say for a ton of players, it's not. A ton of players, it's worth it to drop some energy in here, get the potions, get the oil, to go ahead and start ascending your gear, at least for a chance at some of those potential game-changing stats, like some extra crit rate, extra crit damage, extra HP, attack percentage, extra speed on your boots. It's very rare, but if you get it, it's going to be amazing. Even if you roll speed on a pair of speed boots, for example, you can throw those on your Arbiter. It doesn't even matter if they're in a speed set, because they're probably going to be an upgrade in general. I mean, what is it, +12 speed? My Arbiter got +12 speed, and now she's rocking 393. So I'd say that's pretty nice, considering before this, she would have been, what, 381? So 393, sorry, is a pretty nice jump. But guys, with that said, thank you all very much for watching the video. I hope you all enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something, and it wasn't just a rehash of all the recent videos. But I'll catch you all in the next one.